I had expected to have this amount of income and stuff like that, and it always seems to fall short. You know, there's more expenses, things that come up. Having great parents that were able to help me, you know, for life, they really will last, and it's going to really help us, and we have seen that.
But we're always wanting to reduce our inventory, so it works. It, you know, tells exactly what we're wanting to do. We want to sell you a car is what that means. It's not going to make it run any better or serve the person any better. Its appearance is a lot when somebody comes to buy a vehicle.
It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Friday, January 21st, and I hope you're having a really good day. If you hear the wind chimes and a lot of like wind and rattling, that's because it's super, super cold where I'm recording, and I'm doing my best to try to record. I've had to like stop and start a few times now because of the wind, and I'm just at this point where like we're gonna do it. So we have been talking a lot about the Duggars on this channel recently, and I understand a lot of you guys are like, wow, what's the focus here? Well, we've been covering them for more than a couple of years as we have been dealing with trying to dissect the world that we were given by TLC of who the Duggars were versus the reality of the group that they were involved in, the IBLP, their belief system, and really the lies that surrounded this family, or maybe even the cover-ups. And that kind of blew wide open in April when Josh Duggar got in serious trouble and subsequently was convicted in December. And during that time, we started to notice that there had been some shifts in the Duggar family. We noticed people were starting to maybe cut ties, break free. But one person specifically that constantly comes up over and over and over again in my comments is Anna Duggar. And obviously we have been talking about what Anna's place is, where she's at mentally, how she's feeling about things, what her goals are, if she's going to leave Josh, why she won't leave Josh. And for many of you, especially of those in the comments, you believed that the guilty verdict meant that this was going to be a wake-up call for Anna. This was going to be the moment for Anna where she would finally say, I've had enough. This is a woman that publicly has gone through so much with her husband, and so many of you felt like, Anna, if now is not the best time to go, it's the best time now. And that's not what we've seen, because obviously since this, we've been able to get records from the center where Josh is sleeping right now, and he's in constant contact with his wife, and she's constantly calling him. One of the questions for so many of you is, why is Anna focusing so much time on Josh now that he's guilty? Why does she still stay where she's at? Where is Anna in her headspace? Is she actually going to be leaving? Now, there has been multiple outlets that have reported that Anna is evaluating everything, or she's considering all her options. And then there's also been reports that the Duggars are standing by Anna and she's got the full support of the siblings. And the truth is stranger than fiction. While we know that sometimes we want to paint a story that is very clean and everyone's happy and cohesive, right now there's a lot of upheaval in the Duggar family. And one topic I wanted to talk about was Anna and why she is so steadfastly staying with Josh and what her mindset was leading up to his trial. So one of the questions that a lot of you had was, where is he at? Does Anna still truly think that he's innocent? Well, I had an opportunity to actually sit down with someone who is close to the Duggars, and we spoke about some incidents that actually happened only a few weeks before Josh's trial happened. Back in December, I told you that Austin and Joy were at a very tough place. They had sort of gone to a crossroads in their relationship with Jim Bob and gotten to a crossroads in their relationship with Anna and Josh, and were sort of evaluating what was happening around them. Well, now I can tell you, because multiple sources have kind of allowed me to piece together what occurred and what prompted Joy and Austin's outrage with the family, and specifically their dispute with Anna. And Anna, her behavior leading up to the trial created such a division in the family. She burned so many bridges that people in the family were afraid to speak. So many were afraid that the fingers were going to get pointed at them. Family members were afraid to share with other people, didn't know if they could speak without being monitored, and were, at any point in time wondering if Josh or Anna were going to blame them for what Josh Duggar did. Now, obviously, you can imagine if you're living in a world where everyone is pointing fingers at everyone else, you start to get paranoid that it's going to start getting directed at you. And you would assume that the people that were going to be blamed would actually be like people that worked at the lot, or it would be people that were close to the family or in the family. But what you wouldn't expect is that somebody who is a friend of a friend of a friend or a friend of your sister's would somehow become a target of Anna's ire. So earlier this week, we found out that Bringing Up Bates was canceled. We also talked about how during trial, there was a text message that Josh Duggar had sent to Evan Stewart about a car that they might be looking to purchase. He referenced a Nissan Versa. Now, he said, I have the Versa at the lot for Carlin, or something like that. And immediately people were like, oh, so Carlin and Evan have a relationship with Josh. That's interesting. My source said Anna was at a point leading up to the trial that she really wanted anyone else but Josh to be guilty for this. And she really, really hit a new low when she apparently, my source alleges, called up Carlin Bates and asked her if she was the person that was at the car lot on these days and if she was the one that was responsible. So my source alleged that Anna learned about the text message about Carlin's car at the lot and wanted to verify if Carlin was there, and was almost implying and blaming Carlin for her being the responsible party. Now imagine you're Carlin Bates and you're in your Tennessee home and you're with your husband and you're pregnant and you are like, what? Like, your best friend is Joanna Duggar. You don't live in the same state. Your husband does not work for Josh. And you simply were looking at a car that Josh had. And now Anna is deciding that you're the one that is actually guilty. Carlin was apparently one of many people that Anna did this to. Not only did she do this to Carlin, she also pointed the finger at brothers, siblings, you name it. But it was the pointing the finger at Carlin that set Austin Forsyth off, which is what my source said resulted in an altercation between the two of them, which ultimately resulted in a huge rift forming between them. So around November, right before Thanksgiving, Joy and Austin were over at the big house, and apparently Austin confronted Anna. And I told you about this confrontation, but I didn't know the full details about why he was so mad. And my source says that Austin was furious at her after she had implied that Carlin, Joanna's best friend, was responsible for what Josh had done. And at that point, that was when Austin stood up for Carlin, lashed out at Anna, and told Anna that she needed to stop blaming everyone else for what Josh had done and stop protecting him. Apparently, that altercation had them sort of in each other's faces, kind of yelling at each other. And then Michelle apparently had to get in Anna's and Dawson's face to split them up. And then Anna started yelling at Michelle. So now you can kind of understand how Carlin, even though she was not at all involved in what happened, a simple text message had Anna convinced that it was Carlin for a period of time. And Austin and Joy, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Not only was it that, but it was on top of that, they find out in court what actually happens to Joy because Jim Bob had been lying to them about it for years. But their relationship with Anna was done at that point. They did not go to Thanksgiving because they did not want to see Anna, my source says. At Christmas, Austin actually was not seen in any photos. Joy kept her jacket on when she brought the kids to Christmas, and seemed to open presents and only stayed for a short period of time. So Austin has, in some respects, gotten to a place where he's very, my source says, he doesn't know who he can trust, and he doesn't know what's going to happen next. And Austin was apparently warning people that, you know, they had no bounds on who they would blame. So not only was Anna then blaming Carlin, but then she started pointing the fingers at the brothers. And so one thing that you guys have noticed is that none of Josh's siblings have been reaching out to him, and he is only communicating with his mom, his dad, and Anna. And he made one phone call to Jed. And that's, I was told, because the siblings were so frustrated that Josh was willing to blame anyone else but himself, putting people at risk of having to go speak to investigators, having to speak to prosecutors, potentially having to be witnesses, that it placed them in an uncomfortable situation. So many of them just want nothing to do with him at this point and are furious with Anna. And Anna has not many relationships left with the siblings because of her behavior. And still, we know to this day that they are now settling on Caleb Williams as their target because none of the other people stuck. But what I was told was that Caleb is the final person that they felt like they could blame this on in a way that it would provide some level of reasonable doubt, even though my sources have all stated that Caleb, under no certain terms, could have had any responsibility for what happened. He wasn't there on the days at the car lot. The judge already ruled that he wasn't there. The prosecutors showed that he wasn't there. They had not proven that remote access happened. And because of that, blaming him would put him in, it would fuel speculation without any proof. So they came to Caleb only after every other option and every other target fell apart. It was the only one that they could use, and it was the only one left. So think of it in this way. Anna Duggar today is still in the same place that she was in the very beginning of all of this, where she still doesn't believe that Josh did this. And she still believes that somebody else is responsible for this. And I'm sure, as much as she wants to deny this and blame other people, it's that behavior that has changed the fabric of this relationship between Anna and everyone else. Now, the next thing was, what's going on? Like, why wouldn't she leave? Well, one thing that I learned, and we've talked a lot about the way that they believe and why Anna has put Josh in front of everyone else and how it's in their culture. They do, the husband comes first and then the children, and her marriage is first and then the children. Well, not only is it that aspect, but a source told me that Anna Duggar has really no desire to work. And she wants to be a stay-at-home homeschool mom. And she can't do that if she leaves Josh. She can't do that if she leaves the bubble of the Duggars, because she would have to take responsibility, make her own money to take care of the kids. The kids would not be able to be homeschooled the same way. She would have to earn money. She'd have to have a job. And these are things that my sources have said aren't on her radar and not interesting to her. She wants to be a mom that's at home with the kids. So because of that, and because of the financial security that Jim Bob will give her, even if she burns every bridge, she'll stay, my source says, at the Duggars. Not just because of her covenant marriage with Josh and her belief system, but also because of the financial security that the Duggars give to her. And the fact that she knows that she'll never have to actually work a day in her life if she stays under Jim Bob's umbrella. So Josh Duggar's trail of terror and how Anna has gotten so enmeshed in this it's unnerving. And I feel for all of the people around them that are getting blamed. But I was particularly outraged to hear that Carlin was blamed in this. Carlin Bates. I mean, she might be naive and kind of liking attention and maybe a little, like, people will say she's full of herself, but that doesn't constitute crime. And it just speaks to the level of desperation that Anna is at, that she was willing to pin the blame on Carlin, knowing that it would risk relationships with Joy, with Austin, with others in the family, because Carlin is best friends with Joy. And at this point, it's unclear if that accusation by Anna has impacted Carlin's relationship with Joy. It doesn't, I mean, Austin obviously stood up for her, and Austin was like frustrated with Anna, but think of it from Carlin's perspective. I would be freaked out. And then now her name is brought up at the trial. Their show is canceled. I mean, there's plenty of other reasons to be frustrated with the Bates because of Gil's involvement in the IBLP, but to try to make them a part of the case is just so unconscionable. And it speaks to kind of where Anna's at. So you have a lot of kids that are still on pins and needles, walking on eggshells, always constantly waiting for the next shoe to drop with Anna. Anna having she doesn't want to spend a lot of time with anyone in the Duggars, doesn't want to have a relationship with anyone because everyone else thinks he's guilty. If they don't support Josh, they're against her and Josh. It's like Josh and Anna against the world, and that's a very dangerous place to be. And what makes me wonder is how safe are the kids that she has, that if she cannot think clearly enough to realize that Josh is actually guilty, like how is she protecting her kids? Those are the questions I have, and I can't tell you because those kinds of investigations are sealed. So tell me what your thoughts are about blaming Carlin and what your thoughts are about burning bridges in the comments below. Bye, guys.